Hello everybody, it's Kara from Wild Book Garden, and today I'm here with my spoiler-free review for Real by Cujec and Peyton Goddard. I received this arc from the publisher in exchange for an honest review, so thank you so much. And as I said, this is going to be a spoiler-free review. As always, I will list any content warnings I can remember in the description box. In this book, we follow our main character, Charity, and she has non-speaking autism, and because of this and because of the way that she can't always control her body, people have assumed that she's stupid. People assume that she can't learn, that she can't go to school, that there's no use teaching her things. She's actually been placed in a care facility or like a school that is abusive, honestly. Like, it's really, they don't treat the kids well there at all. And this book is about when Charity gets the resources and the allies to help her begin to communicate more, and the way that this really opens up her opportunities, and about Charity pursuing her right to have an education. It's about her going to a new school and trying to adjust and starting to make friends, and of course the people that she comes up against along the way who don't think she belongs there and who treat her terribly. And I also want to mention that I don't think Cujec is autistic, but Peyton Goddard is, and so in that sense this book is Own Voices, and some of it is actually based off of her specific experiences. There's an author's note at the back that talks a little bit more about that. And I also want to mention that I myself am not an Own Voices reviewer. This book is a pretty new release, so there's not a ton of reviews yet, but I was able to find one or two Own Voices reviews that say that the autistic representation was done really well, so I will link those down below. But as always, I encourage you to seek out Own Voices reviews and more of those when they become available. So I've already kind of given you the plot overview, and now I'm just going to get into the things that I really enjoyed about this book, because I did really like this novel. I really liked Charity as a main character. I feel like we really got such a clear understanding of who she is as a person and how brave and kind and good she is and how smart she is, that people just don't give her credit for that. We also can really feel her frustration throughout this book, that she has all of this personality, all of these dreams, and all of these thoughts and opinions and things that make her who she is, that people just don't know because they assume that she doesn't have them, and because Charity is not able to communicate in the way that a lot of other people do. I also really liked a lot of the other characters. Charity has some really loving family members and friends and just allies and people who support her and people who are there to make sure that she gets what she deserves, like the treatment and the resources that she should have always had. There are a couple of people in particular, Anna and Celia, who specifically work with her at her new school, and I just loved both of them. They were just great characters. I loved the way that they supported Charity, and the way that they show, like, their characters in the book show how having a couple of people in a kid's life who are trained for this and who believe in them and who love them and who are on their side and who are ready to go to bat for them. Just the huge difference that it makes to have people who are trained and who actually care about Charity and like Charity there for her. It's just I really loved their characters, and I think that they contributed to the story in a great way too, because they showed what a difference those things and those people can make. Not that Charity didn't have love and support at home, but her parents didn't always, like, they didn't have training, all of the ways to communicate with her, to interact with her, all of the techniques to use and everything. Another thing I thought was really interesting about the characters is the way that not all of them conformed to your first impressions of them, and I think that was very realistic. I think the book doesn't excuse the way that they treat Charity, because there are a couple of people here who are not very welcoming or kind when they meet Charity or when they meet her again after not seeing her for a long time. There are people who are not very kind to her. And I don't think the book excuses that. And I also think it shows the variety of experiences that disabled people can have when they're meeting new people or meeting up again with people after they haven't seen them in a long time. I also really loved the friendships in this book and the way that we see those develop. In some cases, they're friendships that are kind of redeveloping because Charity hasn't seen these people for a long time. I really like that emphasis on friendship and the way that we got to see those friendships develop in this book. As for the plot of this book, I thought it was very engaging and very stressful in a very believable way, because we see Charity again and again come up against these obstacles from people who don't believe she deserves to be there, for people who don't think she deserves an education or proper care and attention, and it's really hard to read at some places. It's really difficult to read about some of the treatment, some of the ableism, and the hatred that is directed at Charity. But I definitely think this is overall a hopeful book. Like, there's a lot of lightness in here as well, and a lot of support and love, but it definitely doesn't gloss over some of the really terrible ways that Charity has been treated. The only thing I didn't love about the plot of this book is I feel like the ending wrapped up a little too quickly. There were some things that I don't think were dealt with quite enough, but other than that, I thought the story itself was really well done, and I think the themes and messages of this book are really, really important. Like, there's the obvious messages about acceptance and treating people well, and the fact that all kids deserve education, all kids deserve to be cared for and loved. And I also want to mention two things that I think this book touches on that are, I think, more subtle, but I think are really, really important. Is number one, throughout the book, Charity makes the point that what has enabled her to finally get the resources that she needs and deserves is that she's been able to prove that she's intelligent. And that shouldn't be the way it's done. Like, you shouldn't have to prove that you have a certain level or kind of intelligence in order to be worthy of being treated like a person. And I really like that this book emphasized that. And even though the plot of this book, a lot of it is focused on Charity being able to stay at this new school and getting to kind of meet her academic potential specifically, even though a lot of the book is focused on that, I really, really like that throughout the book we do get reminders from Charity about the fact that it shouldn't matter. Like, she shouldn't have to prove that she has a certain level of intelligence in order to be worthy of love and care. And I really like that. I think that's a really important message to have, especially in a children's book. And another thing I think was really important is the way that this book shows that Charity doesn't just have to prove herself once, she has to continuously prove herself. It's not like she gets over this one obstacle and it's done and she can stop. It's the way that disabled kids are continuously up against obstacles. Like, she has to prove her worth as a human being over and over and over again, not just once. And while that can be very hard to read, I think that it's really important because unfortunately that is the way that it happens a lot of times. It's not like you convince one superintendent or one principal or one teacher and then everything is smooth sailing. It's like, it takes so much because the whole system itself is set up to not take care of disabled kids. And I just really like the way that this book acknowledged that. Like, it really acknowledged that continuous fight to prove your worth again and again and again. I also want to mention that the reason I didn't review some of these specific like writing choices is because I don't know how much of that is based on Peyton Goddard's own experience, like the way that she would like think or speak about things. So I don't want to like make a judgment about how effective a certain writing technique was when it's based on her life, you know? So that was the reason that I didn't mention those parts specifically. But I thought Real was a really great book. I gave it 4 stars. And again, I encourage you to seek out Own Voices reviews to see how autistic reviewers are responding to this one. But so far what I've seen has been positive, and I'm not an Own Voices reviewer, but I did really enjoy this, and I think it's a really important and well done book. Okay, everybody, so that was my spoiler-free review for Real. Please comment down below and let me know if you have read Real, what you thought of it, or if you're going to pick it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!